Here I go. I'm going to start my cake. Now, I will read you the ingredients. It says 1/2 a cup of extra virgin olive oil, 3 ounces of bittersweet chocolate chopped, 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 cup of cocoa, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 cup of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of table salt. I guess I'll use sea salt instead of kosher. 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of sugar. 2 eggs plus 1 yolk and 1/2 cup of milk. So the first thing it says is to spray a 9-inch spring form. Here is my mother's, this was my mother's 9-inch spring form. It has this real old-fashioned kind of clasp thing on it. It doesn't really have a spring. This thing just pulls down. And I'm going to spray it with some spray. And then I'm going to heat up this 3 ounces of chopped up bittersweet chocolate with the 1/2 cup of olive oil. I'm going to melt it. And then I'm going to get the rest of the ingredients. I'll show you after I'm at that point. All right, here's the 1/2 cup of olive oil that I heated in the microwave for about a minute with the chocolate, 3 ounces, and it's melted. Right here we have flour, cocoa, salt, baking powder, and baking soda. I think that was everything. And then I'm going to mix in this bowl a cup of sugar, 2 whole eggs plus 1 more yolk, and 1/2 cup of milk. And then after I get that done, I'll be back. All right, real quick, that's the 2 whole eggs and 1 yolk and the sugar. And I've whisked it together. Next, I'm going to whisk in the olive oil chocolate mixture. Here's my mixture with the chocolate olive oil whisked in. And now I'm going to whisk in 1/2 cup of milk. Whole milk. And then I guess next is just the dry ingredients. We'll see. It's an interesting chocolate cake with no vanilla, but I'm going to follow the recipe because I've never made it. And I bet it's because you can taste the olive oil that way. We'll see. Here's my milk is now whisked in, and then I'm going to put this flour mixture and whisk it in there. And then it just goes into the spring form, and you put a little sugar on top. Here is my cake in the spring form, the batter. And now I have 2 tablespoons of sugar that I'm going to sprinkle over it. And then I'm going to give it a couple of knocks on the counter to get the air out of it. I'll be back right before I put it in the oven. So I can do this evenly. All right, here's the sugar all sprinkled on top. I put a little foil under it just to make sure it doesn't leak out because, you know, the spring form is not super duper tight. Anyway, it's going in a 350 oven. And I'm not sure how long. I'll let you know. Oh, okay. Got one more thing to add. Okay, I'm going to put this cake. I did bang it on the counter a few times to get the air bubbles out. And then it's going to go in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. And I have one thing to say about my last video, which was the blue cheese slaw. And I mentioned at some point that I put in vinegar, cider vinegar, and sugar, and I mentioned teaspoons, but it was tablespoons. It had 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar and sugar in it. So I'll see after the cake is out of the oven, or maybe while I'm making the sloppy joes. We'll see.